program. We're going to first just kind of talk about the different offerings in educational administration and leadership. Talk about a little bit about the principal and superintendent endorsements, and also about the differences between the master's and the study. And we'll also introduce all of our faculty and have time throughout. Feel free to ask questions in the chat box, and also we'll have time at the end for questions. I'm just going to go ahead and get started and try to figure out. Okay. All right. So the first thing we really wanted to just emphasize is why Illinois. We know there are a lot of opportunities for leadership preparation. There are online opportunities. There are in the Chicago area, you have a lot of choices for in-person, and our program is really unique for a few reasons. So first is it's a cohort model. So you will have courses with the same group of students over your endorsement coursework, which gives you an opportunity to get to know each other and really develop a community of peers, a community of practice. So when you do become an administrator, you will have connections in different districts across the state, sources of support and collegiality. Our coursework is both rigorous and relevant. We really focus on making connections between theory and practice and thinking about how what you're learning in your courses connects to what you'll actually be doing as an administrator at the building or district level. When we're thinking about finance, for example, you will be looking at a school budget or a district level budget. When we're looking at educational law, thinking about what does this law mean when I have a discipline situation that I have to handle. So really thinking about the connections between what you're learning and what you'll be doing as an administrator. We have a strong record for preparing administrators across the state, and you can see this in the types of positions that our graduates hold, many building level and district level positions. We have a strong record of students passing the state licensure exams that you have to take. And we have students that keep coming back, that many who did their bachelor's and then they came back for their master's and they came back for their doctorate because of their experiences with us at Illinois. And then I think one of the most important and what really makes us unique is it's a small, intimate program with dedicated faculty. So there is a chance down the line you may have a course with an adjunct, but the majority of your courses will be taught by the faculty who are here on the chat tonight. You'll get to meet them all and get to know them over the course of the program, especially if you end up choosing a doctorate and working on a dissertation. You will have an advisor who knows you, who knows about your school, knows about your research interests, and is really invested in your success. And in the master's level principal program as well, we get to know our students well in ways that it doesn't always happen in a larger program. And I'm going to see if someone should just send me a chat or tell me if Dr. Rice joins us, because I can't see that. So we offer 2 different endorsement programs at 2 different locations. So in both the Champaign area, there's an on-campus program, and we have a program in suburban Chicago. The courses are held at Chicago. That
You're breaking up a little bit, Rachel.
Do you have folks in Champaign area who commute from some of this?
Yeah.
Oh no. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, our other programs are.
Feel free to take over for me.
Are offered at Oakton Community College in Des Plaines. So that was, I think everything else fit.
Sorry, I just got kicked out. We tried to get a Wi-Fi extender and other things at my house, but it has been not the most successful. All right, okay. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. So we have programs at Oakton Community College in Des Plaines and on campus in the Champaign-Urbana neighborhood. Our courses are offered a mixture of currently about half of the courses are offered online and about half will be face-to-face. It is not possible to do a 100% online program with us. And while we see the benefits of online learning and we've gotten a lot better at it over the past 100% remote, we also value the opportunities for face of our office. But there is some blended opportunities, and it's partly dependent on which faculty is teaching which course, which semester, and how that is all. So it will be a mix of online and in-person courses. There are two people that you could be reaching out to with questions, and we'll repeat this information again. So Dr. Patrick Rice, who will be joining us shortly, is a clinical assistant professor. He will be your advisor if you are a master's student in the principal preparation program. And then myself, I'm Rachel Vergren, and I will be advising for doctoral students in both the principal program and the superintendent endorsement program. And you can reach out to either of us if after this session you have more questions or want to follow up, then you can reach out to either of us. So this is our mission, and this is really important when we think about leadership in Illinois and the United States and the types of leaders that our schools need and that our kids need. We are explicitly committed to preparing leaders for social justice and change, leaders who are creating the organizational conditions that produce equitable participation by all stakeholders. And this commitment you will see across your courses, in your readings and your assignments, graders level, and also within our program. And I think it's something that students value in our coursework, that we don't see education as a neutral endeavor, but education is inherently political, and we are preparing leaders who want to think about the schools that we have now and how can we make them more equitable spaces for our students. And then this is a little bit more just about our program, so I'm not going to read this slide, but this really talks about the types of positions that you would be prepared for with your credential. So we have many students at principals, superintendent, but we also have students who choose to become department chairs or curriculum directors, or deans, and even policymakers. There's a whole range of careers that you could be prepared for with a master's or doctorate in educational administration and leadership. So now, I'm sorry for not introducing myself first, but we should have put the slide first. I'm going to actually ask, and we'll go in alphabetical order. So Dr. Alexander, you're going to go first, and just ask each faculty member to introduce themselves and share a little bit about the courses you teach and your research, particularly for students who will be pursuing a doctorate and looking for dissertation advising. So Dr. Alexander, if you could introduce yourself.
My name is Kern Alexander. I teach school finance or education finance, educational law. In that area, I teach the course in educational law and the law in the school superintendent course. Of course, the law overlaps school principalship endorsement, and it also covers superintendent endorsement. But we have two courses in educational law. The school finance course that I teach has a lot of ramifications to it. And my colleague, Paul Bruno, teaches that as well. We try to cover everything from budgeting to the distribution of funds at state education agency level, local property taxes, as well as federal funding. So we pretty much cover the entire arena with law and finance.
Yep, And I am Paul Bruno, and I study, in addition to teaching the school finance course sometimes, I also teach classes in policy and quantitative methods. I use quantitative methods to study school resource allocation, so how schools and districts spend money, why they spend money that way, whether it matters, and how they also allocate sort of human resources. So studying things like teacher hiring and teacher assignment and teacher compensation and things like that. So as Karen said, I teach sometimes teach the school finance courses. Right now I'm teaching a course in quantitative policy analysis. And if, for example, you were working on a dissertation using quantitative methods or studying some of those issues, I might be someone you think about working with.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Osley J. Flores. So I teach public policy and politics and education, and I teach leading learner-centered schools, so basically instructional leadership. And most of my work, I involve my research focus, which is around race-conscious leadership, culturally responsive leadership, and ethical leadership.
Hi and welcome. My name is Mary Herman, and I actually will have you if you join our program this summer, because I teach the Intro to Ed Leadership course for our aspiring principals, and then I also teach district level improvement or leading innovation and improvement for our superintendent candidates. I will also serve as your advisor if you are in the Des Plaines cohort. And I will work with you as interns in both as aspiring principals and aspiring superintendents. So welcome and thank you. And I'm happy to address questions as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Nelson. I am a sociologist who studies organizations, namely K-12 schools as organizations. The two classes I teach right now are EPOL 544, which is organization theory for educational leaders. So that is a course you'll take whether you're in the principal program or in the superintendent program. And another course I teach is in the diversity and equity program, and that's called diversity, leadership, and policy. I study how schools as organizations, how aspects of their environment, such as the demographic composition of teaching faculty, the leadership practices used by the principal and administration, and spatial arrangements in the school, how these kinds of elements of the school environment affect teacher experiences and outcomes. So these include coworker support, race relations among teachers, trust and respect among teachers. And so if those are things you're interested in, I'll look forward to having you in class or working with you.
And Dr. Rice, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Dr. Rice and having some technological difficulties, but I'm one of the clinical assistant professors. I have a strong background in K-12 governance and administration. And if you are looking to enter into your principal program, I will be working with many of you all. Thank you.
And I am Rachel Rogerman. I am an assistant professor. My research focuses on the support and development of equity-focused school leaders. I'm currently serving as the program coordinator for the EAL. Sometimes we say EOL. I think they're the same, Educational Administration and Leadership. So I emailed with many of you already questions you've had about the program. So this is just a little bit of who we are as faculty. And Dr. Rice, do you want to take over for a little bit?
Yes, our commitments and expectations. So essentially at the University of Illinois, we just so happy. We know, first of all, we know that this is a difficult decision whenever you have to choose a school to attend for your graduate work. But we believe that we are the best in the business and we have a strong staff. And as adult learners, I know you have to balance all your course responsibilities and professional responsibilities. And so in your family and other kind of community or civic obligations. So we are committed to helping you reach your fullest potential. And is it the next slide? Okay.
I think this is me. So we offer 4 degree options. The top 3 can be in Oakton or on campus. The PhD, I believe, has a residency requirement and is only for on-campus students, but if someone else knows different, feel free to jump in. So the Masters of Education, or MED, is primarily principal endorsement candidates. It's work, which includes 32 hours of endorsement coursework plus internship, a year-long internship. It's like foundations course. You have a choice from maybe 5 to 10 different choices to take a course there. The Certificate of Advanced Study is generally an option that students choose if you already have a master's degree, and instead of an additional master's or a doctorate, you would choose a CAS as your degree. And this includes the endorsement coursework plus the internship. And then principal candidates also would take a course on organizational theory, EPOL 544. And there are also 2 foundations courses that are required, and these may be waived depending on coursework you took in your first master's degree. The Doctor of Education, or EDD, is a doctoral level degree that includes the endorsement coursework and internship, research coursework, as well as a dissertation. And this is either principal or superintendent endorsement students can choose an EDD. You must already have a master's degree to choose this route. And many students who choose this route complete the endorsement coursework first and then go on to their dissertation coursework. Some will do both concurrently. And then the Doctor of Philosophy, the PhD, is very similar to the EDD, but it has a more specific research component. So the core coursework for both the EDD and PhD is similar in the licensure coursework. Then the big difference really will lie in the research courses that you're required to do.
Dr. Rogman, there's a couple of questions. This might be a good place to address about some of the differences between the program options. And one of those questions is about whether different locations have different program options. So, where do you have to be taking them to participate in them, or are they all offered everywhere?
Great. So the principal endorsement, master's, or EDD can be in Oakton or on campus. The CAS also, and the CAS can go with principal or superintendent endorsement, can be at Oakton or on campus. And the EDD also can be Oakton or on campus. And I believe the PhD can only be on campus. I would just note for the EDD, if you are off campus, all of your additional courses will likely be online. So your research, the 12 hours of research coursework, and then you may have some electives or independent studies thrown in there. Those will likely be all online. But the endorsement course will be the mix, as I mentioned earlier, of on campus or online.
Gotcha.
Were there other questions in here?
Oh, one more question where this might be a good time is about someone who's interested in a position like as an athletic director, where that's considered an administrative position. And I think maybe, and Parker, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, maybe the question is maybe you don't need the specific like principal licensure, whether one program or the other might be more appropriate for that, like the master's versus the certificate.
Yeah, you summed it up well. Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's a good idea to get the principal endorsement, just because that, particularly I know in the suburban area, many districts want all of their administrators to have that licensure. So we no longer have the type 75, and so now the best option for people who are wanting any kind of an administrative position is to go for the principal endorsement.
Yeah. And I concur with Dr. Herman, and also keep in mind too, as athletic director, you're going to be in a supervisory position, and also they're going to be relying upon your recommendation to help screen other applicants for coaching and et cetera. So it requires a lot of administrative detail, which make the principal license really optimal to get for athletic directors.
I would like to pose a question that some students, particularly in the Chicago area, might like an answer to. If I'm not in a cohort, let's say I've been at another institution, but I need 3 courses in Chicago that's offered in the University of Illinois curriculum, and I take those courses as a part of the program in Chicago without being a formal member of the cohort. I think that's a question for Dr. Herman, maybe.
Well, I'll actually jump in. Dr. Herman, feel free to add that there are options to take courses non-degree, which would sometimes students will start non-degree while they get their application materials in order. If it's for an endorsement program, the issue would be which university is supporting your endorsement with this state. So going to
If you're not in an endorsement
set
and you want a degree,
and say, well, these other, we would we're the same. How often that happens or how so, and
you're breaking up.
Yeah, I think we're
and
losing Dr. Rogman there a little bit.
Potential.
Bad connection, Rachel.
All right, I think we lost her there, but the maybe 1 or 2 other questions that are worth sort of touching on briefly here. And maybe Dr. Rice or Dr. Herman might know the answer to this one. With the certificate of advanced study, is it possible to get the superintendent endorsement through with the certificate of advanced study?
Yes, it is. I think that what you would want to do, and it wasn't mentioned, but that we really encourage you to go through the full superintendent endorsement program, because some students may choose to do the just take the courses through and get a certificate of advanced study, and because they already have another master's degree. I think when it comes to superintendent, there are so many courses that, in addition, that are required, that we really encourage you to go through the entire EDD program. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Correct. And as Dr. Roman pointed out earlier too, sometimes you have some cases, some anomalies where a student may be getting some paperwork in order, or run into some other situations where they register as a certificate of advanced studies. So that's possible, but as Dr. Herman pointed out, it is we prefer for people to stick with the traditional route with the courses that we have set up.
All right.
Thank you. I just want to apologize for my internet. I'm going to keep my camera off. I think maybe because I've never had this many people on a Zoom call from my house. I normally teach from the office. Is it okay if I move on to program structure?
Yes, I'm just going to say to the people, and I'm recommending that specifically if you have a question in the box. I think a number of the questions we're going to address coming up about coursework and course loads, and if not, then we'll follow up at that point.
Great. Okay. So generally, students take 2 courses each semester. That's what we offer to go through the program on the cohort model. Principal candidates, you can get the principal endorsement following this model in 2 years. And for superintendent endorsement, this follows the model after 3 years, you can get the endorsement. Our courses are offered either weeknights over 16 weeks, the course of a semester, or weekends, where this is about once a month. It's a Friday, Saturday blend, once a month per semester, which equals about the same number of hours. And again, this could be a mix of in-person, remote, or blended. In terms of summer classes, there are 2 principal endorsement courses that are offered only in summer. I should say there's actually, if you're on campus, one is offered on campus as well, but it's often offered during the day when teachers can't take it. But it's always offered over the summer. And then the Ed Psych requirement for the master's degree, the research methods, and the dissertation coursework and electives may be taken over the summer or during the semester. It really depends on how many courses that you want to take, particularly if you're pursuing the EDD or PhD for the doctorate, then you have additional courses, and then again, you may decide to take more courses. But we generally recommend 2 courses each semester, and we have a kind of a cycle of when we offer courses for each cohort that balances out to 2 courses each semester. And just to note, for the internship, we'll tell you this again, so don't worry, you have to remember, but the internship is 2 credits in the fall and 2 credits in the spring. It's a year-long course at both the principal and superintendent level. And this is really so you can have experiences across the school year and really see at different points in the school year the different things that administrators are dealing with. Were there specific questions to program structure that I should address now?
I think there were maybe a couple of interrelated questions about whether it's possible are people typically working full time when they're, say, completing an
Yes.
EDD? And is that true both for in-person and online programs, or do they tend to be in one program or the other if they're working full time?
All of 99% of our students, if not 100%, are current teachers, administrators, psychologists, social workers in a school. That all of our courses are, again, in the evenings or the weekends or the summer. In response to that, we will often move a synchronous class to asynchronous the week of parent-teacher conferences, especially on campus when our 2 local districts have the same week of conferences. So as faculty, we really are aware that you are all full-time educators, and the fluctuations of the school year for you and how that affects your engagement in the course. I would say for the online, if I know some of you have emailed me, you're thinking about, do I want this program, also looking at the online EDD program? And in that program, the majority of students also are working professionals. So just to talk a little bit about, again, I mentioned earlier
No, I think that's good for
the
now.
cohort
I'm
model.
fielding additional questions in the chat, though.
Okay. So for the cohort model, you will progress through your courses as a group. Ideally that you bond as a professional learning community and form lifelong professional networks. And again, as administrators, this is really important, especially the higher up in administration that you get, that you have connections when you are the superintendent of the district, to know there's other superintendents that you can reach out to and talk to when maybe you don't want to talk to someone in a subordinate position to you in your district, but you have professional connections across the state or the region is really valuable. And then with the cohort model, course content is scaffolded as students build on previous learning with each subsequent course. So we know when I'm teaching a course on one subject, I know what you've already taken. So we think about what was covered in that class. And then in this class, how can we build on and extend that knowledge in the new class? So it really helps both on the student perspective and on the faculty perspective. Again, we ask that you commit to the cohort model. And this means that you are agreeing to complete courses with your coursework. We occasionally will have students who commit to the cohort model and then circumstances arise. Maybe they move to a new building, or they have a child, or whatever, or there's a global pandemic and life just gets busy. If you end up having to not stick with the model, it's fine. You can stay in the program. It just might take you an additional year. So for example, if principal level finance is only offered in the fall, and in the fall you can't take it, then you would just in your 3rd year take that course. So it just might take an extra year to complete the program. Or if you're the basketball coach and all your games are Wednesday nights, you can't take any course Wednesday night and you have to miss a course. So we really try to keep everyone with the cohort together. And just know if something happens, we'll work with you to figure out how to get you through the program. But again, it may take an extra year for you to get through. So just a little about eligibility, and this is partly from us, but also a lot from the state. The state has guidelines around both principal and superintendent eligibility. The main thing here is that you must have completed a minimum of 2 years of full-time teaching. When you go to apply, there's a form called the verification of experience that your current administrator needs to sign, saying how many years you've worked. And the application process, after you submit everything, we'll reach out to you. We're going to be doing group interviews with all the applicants and an on-demand writing sample. It is not, it might feel stressful, but it's a really low stakes opportunity just for us to get to know you a little bit better. And one thing to just note, that admission to the program does not guarantee that you will be recommended for principal licensure. And that the state of Illinois requires 4 years of teaching experience. So you could be admitted after 2 years, and that's assuming with 2 more years of the program, you will have had 4 years of licensure. But recommending students for licensure involves successful completion of coursework and the internship and meeting the requirements of the state. For superintendent eligibility, you have a GPA requirement. You must have a principal endorsement or general administrative license. And then, it's not on the slide, but I believe it's 2 years, but please jump in, Dr. Herman or Dr. Rice, if it's 2 years of administrative experience. I believe that's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, so again, 2 years of experience, and you also will complete the verification of experience form that with a supervisor of yours attesting to your years of experience to join the program. The dissertation, for those of you who are thinking, do I want the EDD? Should I just get a second master's or a CS? So this is a big question. It's to think about, and I think there's lots of reasons why or why not in this, but if you choose this route, and we're happy again to meet with you and talk with you a little bit more if you're kind of debating this for you personally, you can begin your dissertation coursework while you're doing your endorsement coursework or afterward. You will initially be assigned an advisor, probably me, but you will eventually identify an advisor whose research aligns with your research interests, so quantitative or qualitative partly, but also finance or law or school improvement, and we try to match people as best as possible. And then you will take, for the EDD, EPOL 550 is the general introduction to research methods that all students take, all doctoral students, EDD or PhD take. And then if you're an EDD student, 2 additional methods courses, and a PhD student, 3 additional methods courses that will ideally align to your dissertation topic. You have 2 exams. They're both take-home written exams. The general field exam is everyone takes a similar exam. It's a 10-day take-home where you analyze a case and advise the principal or superintendent. And then the special exam, which is a 6-week take-home aligned to your dissertation topic. If exams stress you out, don't think about it too much now, because through your coursework, you'll be prepared for the general field exam. And this exam really helps you write your dissertation. So don't worry about that now if that makes you nervous. Generally, students take 5 to 6 years to complete the endorsement and the dissertation. It could be shorter if you take 3 courses a semester, or take 2 to 3 take 2 courses over the summer. It takes longer if you keep changing ideas about your dissertation topic, or if you have to slow down your coursework and just take 1 course a semester, which sometimes happens. That could slow you down. But I would say on average, it's about 5 to 6 years for the endorsement and dissertation process. Tuition and fees. Tuition is different for off-campus versus on-campus students, just to know. So the tuition fees haven't been established for next year. There's the registrar's website has some information. There's also be some things you have to pay for the field experience supervision fee, textbooks, and so on. And then if you are in the Champaign-Urbana area, your school likely, you may have tuition waivers. If you are admitted as an off-campus student, you cannot use those. I can't really speak to the why of that, but just know if you're off campus, you can't use a waiver for your coursework. I apologize. I know that is hard news to take if you have a waiver, but just to know that. And if you have questions about the financial piece, we can direct you. There's a cost calculator that you can run, but I think that only actually works for on-campus students. I don't know that they've updated it for off-campus and online students. And then there's some things you'll have to pay for, like your state exams as well will have a cost. Oh, right, other costs for endorsement. I forgot this one. So there's a teacher evaluation training. Principal candidates have 2 endorsement tests through ISB. I believe superintendent candidates have 1, and then a licensure fee. And please note, all fees are approximations and could change in the future, probably going upward, not downward. But just know that this is, and these costs go directly to like teacher evaluation training. You don't submit them to the university. You would set these up and do these directly. And these would be the same for any preparation program that you chose. So application information. The deadline is April 1st, but we will review applications until the cohorts are closed or filled. So you should still apply even if you can't get everything together for April 1st. And if you have, you had a low GPA for your undergraduate institution, don't not apply because of that. That we're really, well, that's part of your academic history. We're really interested in your professional experience, and that really outweighs, what you did as an undergrad for most of us when we're reviewing applications. Don't language hold you back from applying. All right, so I feel like I talked a lot now, and let's take some questions, and other folks feel free to jump in and give some answers.
Yeah, so I've been trying to keep tabs on these and I apologize if I miss your question or group it in with another question where maybe shouldn't be grouped in, but maybe just want to take a couple of questions about sort of one, confirming whether the internship typically happens after 2 years or after 3 years of classes being completed, and how much, and there's also, I think, a little bit of uncertainty about how much variation there is in that sequence you laid out. How often do students diverge from that?
I can respond, I guess, to the internship question. So for aspiring principals, the internship is done for 2 semesters over the course of the 2nd year, and that's always the case. So that is not really a negotiable. I mean, that is typically always done that way. I say typically because who knows, but it is scheduled for that 2nd year of the program. With the superintendents, it's the 3rd year of the program. And essentially the internship covers the course of the entire year, but you only register for 2 semesters. And what we mean by that is you can do a lot of the required work during the summer. So we have that expectation and hope that you do that. So you learn about what's expected of the internship during the end of your 1st year. And then that if you're able to do some summer work, you're able to get started on that. That's great. If you're not, it's not a problem, but we encourage you to do that. So I don't know if Dr. Rice wanted to add any more to that.
No, I think you hit the nail dead on the head. Like Dr. Herman said, normally principals in their 2nd year and superintendents in their 3rd year is normal when the interns take place.
Thank you. And a question here, and I apologize if I missed this being answered already, but there's a question about whether, in terms of having a certain amount of previous experience before applying to licensure programs, is it possible to apply for those while you are completing the minimum required amount, say in your 2nd year of teaching before it's completed, or does it need to be all the way completed when you apply? If you can register
if you do not have, you can register as a CAS student, and that's what we kind of alluded to earlier. Some students take courses if they know that they are at the end tail, they're meeting their requirements, and they register as a CS and just to take a course. But it's always better if we follow the traditional process as much as possible, but that is an option.
Okay, so they
Yeah,
might be able.
I
Go
would
ahead.
I would not recommend it in general, because I would say if you're in your second year of teaching, you're still, figuring out teaching.
Yes.
And before thinking about administration, we really want you to have a good handle on your teaching craft. The research, suggests that it takes so many years to really develop your teaching practice. And so we may look at an applicant who doesn't have the full 2 years of experience, but there is a chance that you may get a response to ask you to apply again the following year.
Yeah, and that's absolutely correct. And usually, like Dr. Rollman also just mentioned, she's absolutely correct. It may be some anomalies, like let's say a district is looking to fast track a person. So it depends on the case, but like I said, it's not recommended.
Okay. And there have been a few questions, and we touched on this a little bit, but I think I understand it can be a little counterintuitive. Could we maybe say a few more words about why a student would be interested in potentially the certificate of advanced study when there are both master's and doctorate programs available? What would they be looking for there?
I think they might be looking for, they're not interested in a doctorate. Generally, CAS is if you already have a master's and you really just want the endorsement and not the doctorate. And there's many reasons why you might make that choice, but I think that is the main one. And it's just because you could apply and then just like drop out endorsement. Well, that's not very satisfying, right? It's that, so instead of going that route, you just go in the CAS program and then you get a certificate, of completion, really recognizing the work that you've put in, that you're just not at a point where a doctorate fits in your professional goals.
Thank you. If someone had a question related to any of those, I was trying to sort of lump some in. If you had a question related to those and you feel like it wasn't answered, you can let us know. And if you feel like you have a very special circumstance that might be a little bit difficult to interpret, also, of course, you're free to reach out to any of us or to the College of Education to ask if you have a more specific question. I'm just scanning through questions now to see what's unanswered. Do other people have?
I think there was one question that I scanned through here about, I believe someone asked about doing training in the corporate sector. And I thought that was kind of an interesting question because I do think there's great value in taking our program, but do you need to get the principal endorsement? And I would say, if you're not going to work as a licensed administrator in the state of Illinois, you probably don't need that. It would be worth exploring a couple things. I think there are some other online programs that may be beneficial within the College of Ed. There are also certificate programs that may be of interest to you. But if you have any interest and you meet the other requirements of endorsement and you think maybe somewhere down the line you're interested in the principalship or an administrative position, perhaps a professional learning director or whatever it might be, it's not it certainly isn't a bad move. It's just, I would explore maybe other possibilities that may more directly meet your needs at this time.
And there's a question here about for EDD students, to what extent are they working with doing sort of interdisciplinary work with other departments or even with other sort of concentration areas within the college?
That's a great question. So the plan of study is there's not a lot of room in terms of like how many electives you get, because the endorsement coursework is 6 credits. And then the number of research credits is determined by the graduate college, which is 12 for the EDD. So that actually only leaves you with 8 credits of something else. So I have 1 or 2 students who are pursuing one of the certificates. We offer the college offers a ESL endorsement that some of our principal candidates have chosen to work on, for example. And then there's some certificates of the online program. So it's possible. And so the minimum number of credits is 64 credits. And you can always do more. You can do as many credits as you have interest in learning, and time, and resources, time and financial to commit to it. So if you decided you wanted to get one of the certificates, or you're really interested in a different interdisciplinary degree or another program area, that's definitely an option for you. I think for many students, by the time they get through the endorsement, they're kind of ready to be done. But it's when you think about your dissertation committee, that's 4 faculty members, 1 of whom has to be outside of educational administration, but you could have more outside. So I have a student now who has someone from the music department on his committee and someone else from philosophy on his committee. So that's a great place to get some support in interdisciplinary learning around your topic.
And tuition waivers. So is it that if you're accepted into a cohort EDM program, you are unable to use tuition waivers for any classes in the program?
If you are off campus, so part of the challenge is off-campus students pay a different tuition rate than on-campus students. Because on-campus students pay less, they are not allowed to use tuition waivers, and they also are not allowed to serve as research assistants or graduate assistants. So the benefit of paying less means that happens. If you're an on-campus student, then you are able to use waivers for your coursework.
For the master's students, when do they typically begin taking classes? Is it usually in the summer or in the fall? And maybe a related question, how many courses are students typically taking in the summer?
Dr. Herman maybe wants to jump in. So she teaches Introduction to Educational Leadership, which is the first course that the master students and principal candidates take, which is offered over the summer. Then master students have an Ed Psych requirement, as do CAS students. That could be taken over the summer. And then for the principal endorsement, there's a course, EPOL 412, which I think is Political Context of Education. And that is also offered over the summer. So students could choose to take both in one summer, or do one in their first summer and then one in their second summer. And then the Ed Psych course can go anywhere within the 2 years, any semester.
And can I just clarify, when you say first summer, do you mean the first summer before their first fall, or their first summer?
Yes, sorry. So generally, I would say about 90% of our students start in the summer, and they will take the Introduction to Ed Leadership in the summer as their first course, where there's also an orientation to the program and an orientation to licensure, and as the kind of their first summer, and then they go into fall with 2 courses per semester.
Yeah, we have a great time together. So I'd encourage you to really think about starting in the summer. We have the summers, it's a great time to really get to know each other and your cohort. And a lot of people prefer the summer, actually.
Oh, can I come? This thing.
You can.
Sorry. Go ahead, Ray.
I was going to say, if you're a superintendent endorsement student for summer coursework, we would recommend starting your methods sequence over the summer. EPOL 550, which is the first methods course, is offered every summer and every semester on campus and online. And that's a great first course to start thinking about your dissertation.
A question here that I certainly don't have the background knowledge to answer. If there's a student who's got previous experience in an undergrad program at the university in the College of Ed, is the cohort experience similar? I'm not sure if anyone in particular is familiar with some of the undergrad programs.
I say my wife is a student in she's in a master's level cohort for early childhood education. So I'm not sure. I would say it's similar in that you go through the program with the same group of students. You don't develop close relationships with your peers. But if there's something specific about the undergraduate cohort, please let us know, and then we can maybe have a little more knowledge to answer that question.
And just again on the certificate, again, I'm also not sure if we touched on this. Is the certificate program also in a cohort of other students, or is that a little more independent?
Yes. So for all of the programs, if you're doing the endorsement coursework is what the cohort is. The dissertation methods is generally you kind of go at your own pace. But the endorsement coursework, whether it's master's, CAS, EDD, or PhD, you go through the principal courses or the superintendent level courses with the same group of students.
Yeah, I know people are doing all kinds of things. If you feel like you're not sure if we answered something or you might have missed it, I think there's absolutely no harm in us repeating this information. I think it can be a lot to process. So no.
Yes, please. And I should say, if you talk to someone who's a student this year, the cohort model has not quite worked this year, partly because everything is online now. So this year is not representative per se of the cohort model. We're going to get back on track next year with that.
And feel free to add other questions. In my mind, I have touched on all of the questions that I've seen in the chat, but if I am wrong about that, now is the time to let me know. You can either unmute or you can send it back into the chat box.
And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but you see our email addresses. And if you had a follow-up question, want to chat more, you have a unique circumstance, feel free to reach out to us. If your question is related to licensure, we have a Council on Teacher Education actually deals with administrative licensure too, even though our name is not in their name. So we may direct you there with questions about, a verification of experience in licensure, but we're really happy to, chat with you one-on-one if you have kind of unique questions as well. So feel free to reach out to either of us, or really any of us. You can, that if you have further questions.
Other questions? No?
I apologize if this was already answered, but someone mentioned, I think I saw in the chat, like the possibility of, let's say you get a master's in the principal certification, and then you wanted to go on to become a superintendent. Is that a pretty streamlined process to keep taking classes, or is it usually you have to go apply to like it's a separate program?
Yes, what you can do, Mr. Ruby, Michael, what you can do, you could, while you're finishing your Ed.M program, you could request to elevate to your Ed.D. And it's a pretty streamlined process where we would give you, if you mentioned superintendency, we'll let you know the courses to take for your superintendency degree, as also while attaining your Ed.D degree. So that's a pretty streamlined process that we'll share with you when you get to that point.
Dr. Rice, can I ask a follow-up to clarify? Am I right that if they had just earned the principal endorsement, they might first need to accumulate some principal experience before going to the doctorate?
Correct.
Thanks.
When we started, I didn't think we were gonna, it's like, how long is this going to be? But these were a lot of great questions. It's really great to see so many folks and didn't really get to hear your voices or learn about you, but please feel free to follow up with any of us if you have questions or more about how to apply or is this the right program for me? And we're happy to kind of chat with you a little bit. Of course, we know our program is strong, but it's also may not be quite what you're looking for, and we will be open-minded and suggesting alternatives. But we're really proud of the work that we do in preparing the next generation of leaders for the state, and we hope to review your applications in the next few weeks and get to know you a little better. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to all the faculty and professional staff from the university who joined us tonight to help set this up and answer all the questions. And again, feel free to reach out with questions and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Really helpful.